Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is number 9, YouTube Live number 9. And I bet there's some spiritual significance to the number 9. Number 9. Spiritual significance of the number 9. 9 fruits of the Spirit. Somebody is here, and I'm super happy about that. Can you give me a thumbs up or let me know in the comments if you can hear me okay? I'm playing around with some different video equipment, and I would love to know if you can hear me okay. My name is Dr. Renee Ostertag. I am a physical therapist and a psychotherapist in the state of Colorado. Carolyn Schmidt, it's good to see you again. How was your week? Specifically, I have been thinking so much about the content from last week. And I know you were here last week. And I've been doing this like freeze to flirt series. I'm the best everything. WCD speakers, Willeen, it's great to see you. It's great to see you. I'm super excited. I got a new shirt. Humankind. Be both. Let's be both. Let's be human. Let's be kind. What does that mean? When you're human, you are the best and worst of everything. You are both beast and rider. You are both monster and medicine. And when I say you, I also mean me. Willeen, Carolyn, where are you joining from? Welcome as people are coming in. It's so great to see you. I love knowing that there's people on the other end of this. And I would love to know, where are you chiming? Did you know if you say chiming and tuning in at the same time, you get chuming? So please tell me, where are you chuming in from? Chiming and tuning. Carolyn Schmidt, Sie sind aus Deutschland. Meine Eltern sind beide von der Schweiz und ich war in die deutsche Schule gegangen für 8 Jahre. So I speak a little bit of German for those of you that don't. What I just told Carolyn is that I speak German and my parents are born and raised in Switzerland. And I went to German school for 8 years. Every Saturday, folks, I learned how to read and write and speak High German. I grew up speaking Swiss German and English. And so it was kind of a cool mix of like growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area meets Switzerland at the same time. Sehr gut. It is interesting to hear. And it has an interesting effect because I'm American, but I'm also totally not American because I was influenced with such Swiss culture growing up. All our family and our friends were Swiss. And it's this weird kind of cool hybrid. And what I find also pretty fascinating is that my oral motor skills are different. My thinking is different because I was trained in 2 different cultures how to be a human. So anyway, I like to think that that makes me a little more flexible in my nervous system and a little more diverse in my thinking and access. Angry Peach, great to see you again. Hello. Angry Peach, remind me where you come from. Like, where in the world are you tuning in from? And who else is here? I'm in Denver. It is cold. Romania. Oh. I'm so ignorant. That's my medical disclaimer. If you my disclaimer, I'm ignorant, I'm biased, I'm imperfect and fallible. I'm also a doctor. I have a licensed clinical doctorate degree in physical therapy, which means I'm like a scientist that studies people. And I'm a physical therapist and a psychotherapist. I'm here in Colorado, and I don't know what language they speak in Romania. And I'm totally embarrassed to admit that out loud. Romanian? My goodness. This is officially my 9th YouTube live. South Sweden! Oh my gosh. The only Swedish words I know are jag älskar dig, which on a human level, Lena Carlson, great to see you. Jag älskar dig. And I recently learned that Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish are quite similar. And I think Norwegian is in the middle, like Sweden and Denmark. No, Sweden and Denmark speak similar, but Norwegian is the most similar to both of those. Allison Dish, lovely to see you close by in Boulder. You're with me in the cold. My goodness, it was 11 degrees this morning. I layered up walking the dog for sure. Well done. Jag älskar dig, Lena. Great, great, great. Oh, so I'm complaining about it being cold. What is the temperature in Sweden, Lena? Please tell me, because it'll give me something to compare to for all the poor people around here that are complaining. Yes, you understand some Dutch too. Scandinavian culture is so cool. I really love it. And with my parents from Switzerland, I often get mistaken that I'm Swedish. And as you and I both know, Swedish and Switzerland are very different. They're both in, Western Europe. So, yes, Allison, you're freezing right along with me. My poor dog, his paws in the snow this morning, he kept having to bite snowballs out of his paws. I never thought about this, but from a temperature standpoint, it's very cold in Sweden here, and it's like blue, right? It's 4 degrees centigrade in South Sweden. That's just above freezing. Oh my goodness. 4 degrees centigrade. I used to know the conversion because I lived in Australia, but that was like 10 plus years ago. But 4 degrees is just above freezing. So I think we right now in Colorado are colder than South Sweden, which is crazy to me to think. Um, let's see, we're 11. Sweden, South Sweden, if you're 4 degrees, I'm guessing that's like 38, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. Lena, no, Angry Peach, sorry, you are south of Ukraine. Yes, I actually know a woman in Ukraine and we connect. It touches my heart every time we do. So, Make Minia. It's so cold. The Canadian geese have left. Make Minia 99. Where are you coming in from? Where are you tuning in from? I'd love to connect with you too. Angry Peach likes cold temperatures. Summers are unbearable for her. I know a lot of people that have that. And Oregon, good to see you. Welcome. Nice to see you. What's the temperature in Oregon today, other than so cold that the Canadian geese have left? Maybe they know what Angry Peach does. They don't want to risk health problems being in that extreme cold. 30 degrees Fahrenheit. 30. Yeah, that's just below freezing. You are also colder than South Sweden. Whew, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Oh my gosh. This is my 9th YouTube live. I've said that already. If these are educational in nature, so if you have any serious medical health conditions, please go consult somebody professional, a doctor, a therapist, whatever it is that you're needing. This content is meant to be educational in nature. So that's my medical disclaimer. I also am a therapist, physical and psychotherapist. So if you would like to consult with me in a more medical health related regard, specifically, you can sign up for a free consult on my website. That's the formal stuff that I need to remember to say, and I just remembered it. Giving myself a pat on the back. It is sunny and cold. Make mine a 99. You bring up such a cool point. I'm doing this series called Freeze to Flirt. How do we get our physiology from a state of freeze to a state of flirt? And I don't mean flirt romantically, although that's an easy channel for us to all understand. I mean, flirt, like be engaged with life, specifically being engaged with your life as you want it to be. Many of us are unable to engage with the kind of quality of life we want to be experiencing, not because we're faulty or flawed somehow, but because our nervous system is stuck in this freeze response. And a couple people have mentioned, and I've been using this mood meter out of the Yale Center of Emotional Intelligence, created by Mark Brackett, evidence based. I do love me some science. As a clinical scientist myself, very committed to seeking objective truth in our realities. And that's not always an easy task. So I've been using this mood meter as a map for us humans to help identify where our nervous system is and how to shift it from states of freeze to engaging. So I'm going to tie this to weather. Sometimes I can make reaches that are big, sometimes not so much. Because remember my disclaimer, I'm human and I mess up all the time. So this mood meter, just to recap, talks about pleasant 1 to 10. 1 is low pleasant, 10 is high pleasant, and energy over here, 1 to 10. Energy is low pleasant, 10 is high pleasant. So make mine a 99 is in colder weather, which for many people reflects the emotions of depressed, miserable, lonely, desolate, alienated, sad. These blue squares can be challenging. But when the sun is out, it somehow makes it better. And that's what Make Mine is all about. The sun is out, so it's mixed. When our nervous system is stuck in a freeze with this blue, it does this mean thing to us where it puts these blinders on us and make us think that the only thing that exists is blue. And that affects our thinking, our feeling, our behaving. So, pain, physical pain, emotional pain, social pain. Angry Peach is blue. Da ba dee, da ba doo. And that right there, Angry Peach, I love seeing you over time. You're starting to bring in the song. Mark 1, Mark 2, good to see you. Do you like how I made that rhyme? Uh-huh. The more I do these engagements with you, the more comfortable I'm getting. So, blue as in low energy, less pleasant emotions. For those of you who have not seen this chart before, I'm doing a quick orientation. If you want a copy of it, email me and I will get you one at info@greentreemind.com. We are working on getting it on my website. Until then, just email me and I will get that over to you. It's a fabulous resource. If you want to shift your nervous system from a state of freeze to flirt so you can engage with life, this map is super helpful, right? Blue, low, pleasant, low energy emotions. Sad, tired, fatigued, drained, glum, disappointed, down, apathetic, disgusted, pessimistic. Friends, this is how I woke up this morning. Hand to God, I woke up pessimistic, and it is not a pleasant place to be. It's difficult to rally and to get up and get going. But because I've been training my nervous system, just like I trained my dog, who's somewhere in here, we can change how the nervous system shows up in these different states. And we can change what we do in these states, but we can't change it if we're not aware of it. Oh, Mark 1, Mark 2, I just fucking love you because you're courageously human, right? You're telling the truth. You are stuck in the flight freeze response. Yes, we cannot change it if we're not aware of it. We also can't change it if we don't tell the truth about it. And that requires courage to take a look at your own nervous system and tell the truth about what's going on, because it's not you, it's your nervous system. This is not your fault. This is not a character flaw. We're all living in really freaking hard times. We've all had hard lives with hard experiences. Not to say that that's the whole of what life is, but it can feel that way when we're stuck in a fight or flight response. Make mine. I am onto something. This is real stuff. I'm so freaking glad you're here. Tell your friends, because we got to learn how to drive the nervous system. It's like a car. If you learn how to drive it, you can navigate the roads of your life better. So, Make Mine is saying, when I talk to somebody, it usually brings me out. Huh. I want you to say more about that, especially like a pretty woman or something that can totally take me out of that mental hell, or pretty much anyone if they make me happy. Make Mine, I think you're onto something yourself, because human beings were not meant to get out of stress and pain alone. It's so painful to think that we are. I am in this American culture where, yeah, every man for himself, like this rugged individualism. And there's good and bad about that, right? There's light and shadow about that. And when we think we have to do this alone, the hard work of rewiring our nervous system, we can't do it alone. We need one another. Mark 1, Mach 2, I need you here. Make Mine, I need you here. Angry Peach, I need you here. Otherwise, I'm just talking to a blank screen. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to a blank screen. We need one another. I'm glad you're here too, Make Mine. We do. We work a lot. We're good at it, but it sucks because it's like the American culture didn't get the memo that rest is a necessary part of the work style. Uh, Rest is a necessary part of the work cycle. The other thing the American culture didn't get is dream work makes the teamwork. That's where I'm lucky that I'm born and raised with Swiss influence. They did a really good job of staying in community and connected to one another for me growing up, because my parents came over on a freaking boat separate from one another. They had to cling to their community to not only survive, but thrive out here. Angry Peach. Oh, I appreciate you being slightly vulnerable. To ask for help and to admit weakness is the worst thing for me. Maybe that's a part of why I'm stuck in blue. Mad respect, Angry Peach. Yes. Because who told you that it was courageous to say, I'm hurting and I'm in pain? Nobody. We think that's weak, so we hide it, and it keeps us locked up in a blue prison of our own selves. I think that it's brave to say, I'm stuck in blue. You know what? This morning, I woke up stuck in blue. It sucks. How did I get out? Well, I've trained, I've done a lot of reps. I got aware of my nervous system and I told the truth. And I trained my nervous system to start showing up. But there's no way I could have figured that out on my own. I've been influenced by a lot of different teachers that have helped me learn how to identify, turn around, and grow the trails in my own nervous system like forest out of blue. And once I can get out of blue, then I can remember that blue is not the only thing that exists. All the colors exist. But when we're stuck and locked in a blue place, we forget that the other colors are real too. Allison, you so get it. I'm so glad you're here. Send me an email. I'd love to connect more with you. Specifically, glad you're here. Mark 1, Mach 2. You're from an Asian country, but you live in the US. I want to cry. It's good. Holding the tension of those different cultures is a challenge for people. right? If you're born and raised in an Asian country and you're living here, there's a whole new set of rules, and that's a lot of tension on your nervous system. And Mark 1, Mach 2, it is different here in the US, and it's different back home, and it's different in Asia because there's a lot of support from family and community. Oh, make mine come back. I'm glad you're here. So, Mark 1, Mach 2, I just yesterday finished reading this gorgeous book called The Other Side of Sadness by George Bonanno. And he talks about the science of bereavement and loss. This guy's a PhD, well, he's a guy. He has a PhD in psychology and he researches trauma, bereavement, loss, PTSD. And this beautiful scientific research that this man presents, we are all more resilient than we often give ourselves credit for. He talks about how important laughter is to buffer sadness. So, Angry Peach, if you're stuck in blue, laughter will help you get out, right? And that's one of the ways out is to remember that blue isn't the only color that lives. There is yellow, there is green, there is red, there is white. George Bonanno, Bonnanno. You are welcome, Mark 1, Mark 2. He talks, and this is why I brought it up, so thanks for bringing that back. He talks about a Chinese bereavement ritual, and it's absolutely beautiful. He talks about the difference in cultures at a funeral at um, they studied Chinese versus American bereavement processes. And by and large, the Chinese do it better than the Americans do. And it's because it's part of their culture and the way that they have relationships to loss and what happens after loss. And here's something I thought was really interesting. Just a brief bit of background. My mom died tragically suddenly of a brain aneurysm when I was 11. And then my father was in really dark, deep depression for about 7 years. And my 3 older sisters left. So I went from like a lot of vitality in my world to and 3 sisters that lived at home. Within 2 years, mom died. Dad kind of was a walking dead. Love you, dad, from the other side. And my 3 older sisters left. So I went from like really bright yellow to a lot of despair in blue in a 2-year period of time when I was 11 to 13. I'm saying all that just so you know me and where I'm coming from. When people in China are at a funeral and they cry, it's very different than when Americans are at a funeral and they cry. And I'm saying this because this is relevant to my own PTSD, my own digestive system, my own neck pain, irritable bowel syndrome. In American funerals, when we cry, it's because it's like we can't hold it in anymore, and finally we're overcome with emotion, tears come out. And that's relevant to me because I grew up as an American. I had a funeral at 11 of my mom, and I was there, and I stuffed it because that's what you're supposed to do, brave soldier. And then it just came out, and I had this, like, massive, like, trauma response at my mom's funeral. It was a whole thing, and I know that my nervous system kept that memory inside as, like, a stuck holding pattern, which drives a lot of my own neck pain and tension. It changes how I breathe. It changes how I digest food. And I'm very devoted to living well, which means I need to be responsible for how my own nervous system is wired. And it took me a long time to figure out I had a lot of that own stuck, like freeze flight from the memories at my mom's funeral. Now, in China, Mark 1, Mark 2, totally curious to hear if you have any thoughts about this. Thank you. It was tough as a child. And this book has been really helpful for me because at a funeral in China, when they cry, it's very much done for the person who just died. they actually hire professional mourners to go and attend funerals because there's a timing. And this is all like thousands of years of ritual in China around how they orchestrate death. But when they cry, they're doing it because they believe that they're helping the person who just died recognize their loss and transition well to the other side. And I love that we can change the meaning of an experience, right? Like crying can be like, oh shit, I can't hold it together anymore. Or crying can be an act of service and support to the one that you love to ease their transition to wherever they're going. George Bonanno did a beautiful job in my experience writing that book. Believe whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is what I believe and how it lives in my nervous system. And is it living in circuits of safety or threat? What do you believe and how is it living in your own nervous system? That's what matters the most, safety or threat. So, I had all these stuck tears for so many years, like log jamming my physiological processes. And I've recently started thinking about tears as a supportive mechanism for me and those I love. I have less resistance to it, and it helps me out of blue. Oh, Brent Green, great to see you. Welcome. I love how you always have a good quote. This one's by Barbara Streisand. People, people who need people are the luckiest people in the world. We're children needing other children, and yet letting our grown up pride hide all the need inside. Yeah, we are all children, each and every one of us. And we're sticking together here. I'm loving this conversation today. Creation coach, good to see you. Welcome back. What do I think of the idea of creating a state of chaos within controlled boundaries to dismantle integrated beliefs and states? That's a great question. And I think if it's being perceived as safe by the one experiencing it, it's great. Chaos can be a necessary process of like order, disorder, reorder. And that seems to be like a normal cycle within life. And many of us can't tolerate the disorder and the chaos, the unknown, the unpredictable, because it's too scary. And it reminds us of a time where things were too scary and we didn't have the support or the empathic witnessing or the anchoring or the grounding in our nervous system. And that's why a lot of people are scared to go into disorder, chaos, unknown, unfamiliar, unpredictable, because we didn't have the anchoring and the support that we needed once upon a time, which means we don't have it now, which means I'm not going there because it's not perceived as a safe place to be. But if that can be orchestrated and organized in a way that's being perceived as safe by the person, I think it's brilliant. And I'd love for you to reach out to me so we can talk more about that, because I feel like in many ways that's a lot of what I do with people and what I do with my own self. It's like dipping my toes in the water of chaos and see what's there and then reorganize it, right? Like order, disorder, reorder. Mark 1, Mark 2. Ah, from China, I love it. Yeah, that sentiment is considered during mourning. And people tend to cry their heart out and not restrain themselves and hold their emotions in. And I just think that frees up our nervous system when we can do that. And I think we need people around us to keep us safe while we let go and feel the feelings fully and go into the chaos of feelings and grief and the wild, tumultuous tsunamis that can have. And the culture in Asia does it better than the culture in the US. Our rugged individualism, I don't think did us favors in that regard. I do think it has strengthened good things to it, but Asia got it right. with letting people be in the chaos of their feelings because other people allow that and support that, and it's viewed as healthy. Here, we're viewed as freaking crazy. I've been on the receiving end of that. It's not awesome. Angry Peach, you also used to hire crying women, wailers. Yes, absolutely. And now we have shifted towards the mindset that crying is a huge sign of weakness. And that makes me so sad. That makes me blue right here and now. Um, it's like we've gone against our nature and we've made parts of ourselves illegal and wrong and bad. This is really interesting information. Did you know that the original definition of loser is one who suffers loss? I am a loser. There is a real weird freedom in saying that out loud here. Like, join me. Are you a loser too? Because a loser is one who has suffered loss. We ostracize and shame losers now. Like, he's a loser. I love these conversations with you all. Creation coach. Yes, let's get some more discussion going. Email me info@greentreemind.com. And I'll give you, if you don't have one yet, this copy. So, Marty, good to see you. You are often weepy, like knowing, I just want to sit with you for a second. Like you know it's okay to feel sad, yet there's some part of you that's holding back. You're scared to feel it fully. Yes, because we've been trained to do that. And our sadness, our tears can trigger people because they can't tolerate it within themselves. So how can they tolerate it within us? Because nobody learned it in our culture. And then they leave, and then we get reinforced that we're going to be abandoned. We restrain ourselves to keep ourselves safe, and that very restraint becomes our own prison, and none of it is our making. It's all the nervous system's normal, natural reaction to the cultures around us. People are too rigid here for their own good and nature. Yes. And so I often move my body, my spine, especially like a fish, because it helps me loosen up the rigidity that has been stuck in my own nervous system. And the looser and more flexible my nervous system is, like the physical structures, the more flexible it is, the more resilient it is, which is why I train people to become nimble nervous system ninjas. Boom, boom, boom. Uh, Carolyn, glad you're still here. Absolutely. Salamander. Yes, that is a good one. Did you see my shoulder just drop? I just put myself in the position and it was like, yes, salamander's a good one. And there's all kinds of great positions. Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 1, Mach 2. We should be allowed to suffer and share it. People are too scared to share emotions, especially men. Well, good for you for being here and talking about it, because a rising tide lifts all ships. What's mine to do? I can't control other people, but I can control, or at least learn to get better at controlling my own skin encased body, my own energy. And when I become less scared of sharing emotion myself, I am contributing to the collective and the collective ability to be less scared to share emotions. Oh, Carolyn, I can relate to you. You've been crying for years. Is there such a thing as toxic grief? Yes. I'm going to actually link that to something Brent Green said here. Sadness and tears that follow, right? Experiencing sadness and tears that follow can help us discover the personal value in our suffering, and then the transformations that come with fully acknowledging the mourning and the loss. Absolutely, yes. And in this book, George Bonanno's The Other Side of Sadness, he specifically, just yesterday I read, he said how feelings are beautiful for short-term use, right? And Brent hit it on the head. And George Bonanno says the same thing. Sadness is a time for us to reflect a bit, go inward, and recognize the loss that we've gone through. And so sadness is a necessary part. As a kid at my mom's funeral, I felt intense sadness and I expressed it wildly at my mom's funeral. And that was very cathartic for me. I would imagine it was really hard for a lot of people there because there was hundreds of people there watching this little kid grieve unabashedly. I feel like I recovered pretty well, but my dad suffered for years, and George Bonanno talks about that, like, short-term feelings are good, but if they continue on, they can act like, skid marks in our nervous system, and they can lodge and get stuck and keep us held back like a ball and chain in toxic, grief, complex um, grief. And a lot of that energy was actually stuck in my own system for like 30 years. My goodness. And it's hard, Carolyn. You are not alone. And it's in my experience challenging to find the balance of like honoring your tears and then recognizing when your tears are kind of like the boy that cried wolf and it's no longer acting in a way that is of service and value and the cords need to be cut or reorganized. And I just say a prayer for you, Carolyn, that grace come upon you because sometimes that's the only thing that I feel like I can do. Like I oftentimes feel very helpless working with people because we're so complicated with so many layers in like our human gobstopper and a lot of these layers we don't know about, and yet they're holding us back, right? It's stuck in the very fiber of our being. It's stuck in our muscles, like right now, holding back. My abdomen's all tight and like pulling me away. And that's not a way to live long term. I'm really enjoying this conversation. It wasn't where I was planning on going today, but that's life. You know, we don't necessarily plan these things out. Mark 1, Mark 2, I keep saying that wrong. Mark 1, Mark 2. It was hard, and that's the thing. Life includes hard for everybody, and I receive your empathy deeply. And I also, it took me a long time to get here, and I don't fully buy into it, but losing my mom at 11 was an irreconcilable loss that still to this day carries unbearable pain for me. And yet it's like a scar that's part of who I am as a human. And it enables me, it informs me to do the work that I do with people. Like I can hold a lot of space for grief and sadness. And I don't disconnect from joy and gratitude in the same way that I used to. And that's a blessing to be able to hold space for all the colors. MS, very cool. Having the anchoring, stay present and nonplussed. It moves through me 100% totally. I don't know what nonplussed is, but I like staying present and letting these things move through us. The tighter, the tense, the more protected and defended my body it is, the less these things can move through me. And Brent said it well. Creativity in all its forms can help us realize the value of our suffering. Paint, write, dance, photograph, sing, sculpt, act, all of this. Yes, yes, yes. I want to lead each of you today in an exercise here in a moment. And I want to not disregard what MS said, like getting attached like an identity of sufferer in my experience only. Yes, yes, yes. Makes me want to burp, honestly. Yeah, it's like a really stuck energy. Like I'm the suffering victim. I'm the martyr, the resentful, bitter human. Like I have that identity in me, not because I chose it, but because it got wired into my nervous system. And I thankfully recognize that there's more to me than that. But you bring up this gorgeous point of like our identities. Who do we know ourselves to be consciously, subconsciously? Who do we want to be? And can we, and I believe the answer is yes, make a decision about the identity that we want to have consciously and then wire that into our subconscious? Yes, all of this is changeable. All of this is plastic. That's the beauty of the nervous system. Training by Dr. Robert Scare in trauma. I went to a course he taught, and somebody asked, but what about like fibromyalgia? And what about Lyme disease and chronic fatigue and all these hard things? He's like, it's the nervous system. Everything is plastic, all of it is changeable. And I find a lot of hope in that, which, by the way, is yellow, hopeful. All right. So last week, I talked about your 4 selves: your favorite self, your most dreaded self, your most familiar self, and your least familiar self. And of your 4 selves, I shared that for me, the red was my most familiar. Like chemically, I was most comfortable and familiar with fight or flight. Anxious, worried, angry, ragey, pissed off. Like that was my most familiar chemical place. And my least familiar place is green, which is high, pleasant, low energy feelings like grateful, touched, cozy, tranquil, chill, secure, satisfied, content. That was my least familiar self chemically. Okay. So I had most familiar as red, least familiar as green. Which identity is connected to, by the way? Favorite was yellow. My favorite self is bright and cheery and sunny and happy. And blue was my most dreaded self. And it's funny because the most dreaded self to me feels like a ball and chain and a prison that I got locked into. And I had the key, but I didn't know I had the key because my nervous system put me in there and jailed me, and I couldn't get out because I didn't know I had a key. It's a scary, dreaded place to be, and yet it never left me. So, Angry Peach, you shift a lot between blue and red. Green feels non-existent at this point. Ha ha. I am so thankful to be able to say, Angry Peach, you're kind of connecting to what Carolyn said. Like, is there a thing as like toxic grief? I think there's these initial protection patterns in our nervous system that can get wired in as an identity, and it's a protection initially. But if it stays in there too long, it becomes toxic and unhealthy. And so it'll make us feel like shit. It'll make us feel like green doesn't exist. And I love this statement: feelings aren't facts. Feelings are valid. They are important. They're necessary to pay attention to. But if we don't balance feelings with our thinking and behaving, we can end up in a prison cell, locked up by the dictator of our feelings, telling us bullshit lies like we're not good enough, we're never going to be enough, things are never going to get better, things are never going to change, green doesn't exist, all the things. We can lock ourselves up in a prison and don't know it. Like I was locked up in a red prison because my nervous system, it was my most familiar, most chemically comfortable place. And yet I would repeatedly create drama and trauma and relationship problems and money problems because I was locked up in that state and didn't even freaking know it. And Mark 1, Mark 2 can relate. Red has been my most familiar place. You used to get a high from being too wired. Totally agree. There's like an addictive cocaine high for me. Like parts of me love red. Love it. Now, I'm going to invite you all to get out a piece of paper. Creation coach, thank you. Feelings aren't facts, but they are relevant. I get in so many frustrating conversations over feelings. You and I need to have a conversation about the human government system. It's a theory that I'm developing right now. Thinking, feeling, behaving. And it's like the US government, right? We supposedly, when things are in checks and balance, president, Senate, House, Congress, president, Congress, Supreme Court, right? If those three are in, good working together, it creates a checks and balances so that we have order in our society. It's the same with our human individual government. We need thinking, feeling, and behaving to be connected with one another and to have all the colors communicating with one another. And then we'll have order, because blue isn't bad, but living only in blue all the time feels really bad. Same with red, but red, in my experience, has a little kind of kinky, existential, cocaine addictive high to it. And then I like to complain about it and say, poor me, the whole victim identity. Yeah. Mark one, I keep messing that one up. Mark one, Mark two. I got burned out too bad. Yes, red is great for short-term use, but if that's the only modality, method, circuit we have, we get burned out. It's like the gas pedal in a car. If you're only using gas and not taking a break from your gas and using your brake or stepping off the gas, you're going to burn out the engine. It's the same with our human system. So, would you all like to spend a little time doing a mood meter twister board exercise? Yes. Good. I want you to get out a piece of paper and draw a line and a line. So you're making your paper in 4. And that is going to represent this, just like that. Okay. So last week we talked about the 4 selves, and I realized red is my most familiar, green is my least familiar, blue is dreaded, yellow is favorite. And I decided this past week that I wanted to change that. And you know what? That's the beauty. Human beings, we do have some degree of free will. I don't think in all circumstances, in all cases, but we can reorganize our nervous system. So I decided that I wanted green to be my favorite and most familiar. And so I've been wearing a little more green. I have green trees on. I have a green tank top on. It doesn't probably look very green to you, but I'm using green to remind myself that this is a safe place to be. It's weird because initially green won't feel safe to you if you've been in blue for a long time or red for a long time. Okay. So you can't change it if you're not aware of it. Quick story. I worked with a woman as a physical therapist. She had shoulder pain, and she's laying on the table and she's holding out her arm, and I'm trying to mobilize her shoulder joint right here. And I'm telling her with my voice and my body to try and relax her arm. And she's like, "Yep, it's relaxed." And I was like, "Okay, it doesn't look relaxed to me." I'm thinking in my head, and I'm trying to just imagine her to like have it be loose like spaghetti, like let it go, let it be soft. Think of a wet noodle. And she's like, "Yep, it's relaxed." And it was a really interesting example, experience of how, I don't know, I think humans in some ways are like a gobstopper, where we can have layers deeper down that we don't know about on the surface, right? Because you and I here on the surface, deeper down is the nervous system, all of its past experiences and stored memories. And so she was holding that arm out stiff. And if I had let it go, it would have stayed exactly where it was. Not so she's thinking it's relaxed. It's clearly not relaxed by her objective behaviors. And so it's like she had a layer deeper down in her nervous system, right? In the human gobstopper, a deep layer was telling her it's not safe to relax. And so I said, you know what? Let's try something. I had her put her arm down by her side. I was standing on her left side. I walked around to the right. I said, notice what you feel. And she said, it feels better with you not on my left side. And I said, okay. And so she was able to relax more. So I was like, it was like my body was communicating to her body at that lower down gobstopper level that um, I'm not on your left. You don't need to protect and defend anymore. So we did this experiment where I stood on her left and then her right, and then her left and her right. And every time I went to her left side, she would tense up. But after 5 or 6 reps of that, she realized, oh, she's not going to hurt me. I don't need to protect and defend. And she was able to then relax her arm. And she asked me, why did that happen? And I said, I don't know. And we don't need to know. We just can work on your shoulder now. And I said, but in my experience, if you need to know, it usually will just come to you. And so after the session was over, she got off the table. She's tying her shoes. She says, I know why I don't like you on my left side. And I was like intrigued and afraid all at the same time to know what came up. And I said, oh, really? Would you like to share? And she said, well, my mother was right handed. And I didn't understand why that was connected. And she said, so when she would hit me, it would always come from my left. And it was so heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time, because that was a powerful lesson for me to learn that the body has these layers deeper down that affect our surface conscious experience. And so I want to go through this little exercise today where we can discover, how does my body actually respond in every color? And then how do I want it to respond in every color? So this is what I've been working on all week. Um, I'm really excited about it. That doesn't mean it will be exciting for you. So let's just run an experience together and see what happens. So I'm going to look like a rapper here for a second, because I'm going to take this microphone and I'm going to like walk around with it. Now, what's really fun about my office, Allison, yeah, make to the nervous system and shoulder. Allison, what do you mean by make? And Mark 1, Mark 2, yeah, it is sad. The body is deep and layered in processing. Totally. So I have this mood meter on the floor over there, and I play like improv with it because I'm trained in improv, which is really fun. And it's helped me learn to get less afraid of the unknown. And so, what we're going to do here is play a little improv together with the mood meter on the board, on the floor. Okay, so what I'm going to invite you to do is join me if you want. You can set up a little foursquare on the floor. Oh, it makes sense. Allison, I thank you for saying that. Talented girl I am, Renee. Thank you, Mark 1, Mark 2. Tell your friends. Have them come and join us here. Um, oh, hi, puppy. Marcus, you want to say hi to everybody? Okay, so this is a bully stick. This is a mood meter. That's a dog. You can set something up like this on your own at home. Just like designate 4 areas as a color. And what I'm going to invite you to do is stand in a color. Okay, so I've got the mood meter here. You can see it. And I'm going to stand in blue. I'm going to start in green. Okay, so pick your green and just stand in it and notice what happens in your body. And for me, I can feel like a choking up, like I'm afraid to cry. And I'm just sort of like waiting here to see what comes up in my body. And you can do the same, right? Like I notice my body. It's kind of like interesting because a lot of people say this, like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I think if you have a trauma history, and I do, it's like this neural expectancy. Like my nervous system is waiting for something bad to happen as I stand here in green. It's kind of pleasant, but also kind of uh, making me feel a little anxious, to be honest. And so I'm going to step off, but what I want to invite you to do yourself is just stand in a color and see what response your body does. Because you can't change it if you're not aware of it. I say I want to be more green, so much so that I'm wearing green tree earrings and a tank top. But if I can't tolerate green, it's not comfortable for me, I'm going to self sabotage and never go green because there's a layer deeper down that's unpleasant and not tolerable for me. And so that's what you can write down in your first quadrant there is in green. What does my body actually do? And we want to tell the truth about this. That's a brave thing to do. If you want to be more green, what happens in your body when you stand in green? And is that okay or is that not okay? Because if it's not okay, you're going to self sabotage all day long to keep you out of green because your nervous system doesn't want you to do things that isn't okay. Right. And so we can do that with every color. And maybe we'll play a little bit more with this next week. Let's just do that for today. Decide which color you want to have more of in your life. And then go stand in that color and notice what does your body do. That's the first part. And then the second part, and here's where we can make a claim, right? I have a tattoo. Put your flag in the ground, make a choice and decide what color do you want to be your favorite and most familiar? How do you want to live? What kind of life experience do you want to have? I decided I wanted green. I just stood in it and it was kind of uncomfortable and making me anxious. So that's the truth of how my body responds to that. Now, what do I want it to be? I want to think about that for a week and get back to you next week. And I want you to do the same because we can rewrite our nervous system, right? We can go down to those deeper layers of gobstopper in our human experience if we know that they're there, right? Like that woman with the stiff shoulder, she told the truth about why that was. It came up for her. More importantly, we were aware of it. She wasn't doing it. Her nervous system was doing it. And we were able to help the nervous system relax and find safety again. And that's going to be my homework for myself this week is to practice standing in green and get some clarity on how do I want green to live in my body. Okay. So I'm going to check back in with you all over here in my awkwardness. Um, huh. MS, I think you agree. Okay, let me catch up here. I'm so excited you all are here. It's like really fun for me. Celeste. Oh, God, I love that, you guys. Mark 1, Mach 2. Standing in green is like dropping the guard. So vulnerable, isn't it? It's like exciting, but scary, vulnerable. Celeste, you notice that you're hyper vigilant in green. You haven't been able to meditate for years. That makes perfect sense to me. Many of us, like stillness is such a freaking dangerous threat to the nervous system because something bad could happen. You never know, right? Standing in green MS says, I feel like a fake. I don't trust. Totally, totally. Angry Peach. Green is fear, dread, unsafe, danger, unpredictable. I say yes to each and every one of your experiences of truth. What was it like to stand in green for you? It was vulnerable. It was scary. I don't trust it completely. Yeah, meditation's hard. Green is meditation. None of us have a nervous system that can tolerate green. You see how this is like getting in our way of being healthy as a society? And thank God we can change it. Remember thinking, feeling, behaving? Take a second to recognize this for a second. Allison, yeah, your body was never able to relax in that muscle tension of green. I want to bring to our awareness here that we're dealing with many levels of reality. And as a scientist, I am devoted to find the objective truth. Here's what's objectively true. You, me, all of us. We stood in green and had a response in our nervous system that was perceiving this color green as a threat. Now, I invite you to look around your room. Wherever you are, there's 4 walls, a ceiling, a floor, and most likely nothing objectively dangerous about that. Physically speaking, just for now, objectively, there's no danger physically in the moment that you're in. It's a big thing to recognize. I'm not saying you're feeling psychologically safe or emotionally safe or relationally safe, but objectively, physically only, it is most likely that you are safe. Therefore, is it necessary to have a stress threat response occur in your nervous system? Maybe not. And that's where our moment of power and choice lies. In between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space lies our power to choose, Viktor Frankl. Once we recognize the dissonance between our body's physical response and the objective truth, that's when we can start to change things. So, what does that look like? For me, maybe for you, think, how do I want to be experiencing green? And maybe practice standing in it this week and having a conversation in your own head, not making your nervous system wrong, but adding to its perception that standing on a green colored square of paper, there's nothing inherently dangerous about that. In this moment, just for now. It's an hour. It's our time, but this was like a super fun live with all of you. I want to hear back. What are your thoughts, impressions, takeaways? What do you want to take away from today? What was helpful for you? What insights do you have? I can tell you I'm thirsty. I'm adjusting the microphone and the camera. I'm really excited for all of you that were here today. Walean, you're still here. You're working through things with awareness. It's good. We can't change it if we're not aware of it. And we can't do it alone. That's why I'm so glad all of you are here today. I'm so glad I'm here today. I didn't want to do this. I never want to do it. And yet I totally want to do it because it's scary. MS. Yes. The objectivity point of view you just brought in. It makes sense. It does. It's so helpful. Like seeking out the objective truth, and feelings aren't facts. Like they're valid, they're important to pay attention to, they give us information. Are they objectively true? My nervous system is having a response of fight or flight or freeze. And is that objectively necessary in this moment just for now? Oh, Allison, red is protecting me from feeling the blue. That's a really good insight. Totally. And I can tell you, Allison, I feel blue in my gut and red in my neck and back pain because they're trying to keep me out. So it's interesting to think about the colors and how they show up in your body now and how do you want them to show up. So we'll do more on that next week. Creation coach. I've been considering developing visualizations using a chart. Talking about colors has gotten me to start putting the points of the chart together. Awesome. Creation coach, seriously, reach out to me. I'd love to have more conversation with you. Angry Peach. Is meditation necessarily green? I meditate sometimes and I can feel myself gravitating a bit more towards green, but I just allow my blue red thoughts to surface without judgment. Beautiful. I think it's so individual and unique and specific. I like the idea that to answer your question, no, meditation isn't necessarily green. I don't know. I think it's maybe white or black. Like all the colors can live there. No colors can live there. But it's an experience that's unique and individual for everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Angry Peach meditation. I think maybe meditation is a place where all the colors are welcome. I like thinking about the color white a lot, and it's interesting because from a light perspective, white is all of the colors, but from a paint perspective, white is no colors. And I like thinking about my own capital S self as white, right? My essence, my presence, the like part of me that is bigger than me, but in me and divinely wise and knowing and compassionate and curious and creative, like Brent mentioned, calm, connected, like, yeah, light illuminates all the dark. And I like having that be my identity. Because then there's like, as long as I have the ability to connect to that, on some level, there's really no problem because that can get me through anything and everything. That can heal, that can connect, that can be well. CH Dante, black is also all the colors mixed. Totally. And it's so interesting to think about white and black. Like, which lens are you viewing it through? A light or a paint perspective? Like, in paint, white is no colors. In light, white is all colors. In paint, black is all colors. In light, I think black is no color. We're at the edge of what I know. All the colors are welcome. All parts are welcome. Allison, yes. Yes. Mark 1, Mark 2, it's helpful to see me break down the different states of our nervous system. It's okay to be in this state of overwhelm, and we can work with our nervous system that it's plastic. Yes, yes, yes. And I really think it's so important for us to do that in community and in connection with other people, because that's what we're wired for. Yeah. Okay, folks, I'm going to wrap it up. I have loved this conversation with all of you today. People from around the world supporting one another. Mark 1, Mark 2, CH, Dante, MS, Allison, Brent, Willeen, everybody that I'm not mentioned yet. Everybody that's watching later. Celeste, I'm gonna just really appreciate you. I've blamed ADHD for my hypervigilance, but that label is papering over symptoms to explain and intellectualize what is really going on. This discussion brings us closer to the cause of our symptoms. That is so powerful. And it moves me, right? It makes me connect to a place of green inside of me. And I'm touched, right? Like I'm over here, Celeste, very high, pleasant, very low energy, reading what you're saying, because when we blame a diagnosis, when we blame our diagnoses for our problems, while that's understandable, it will guarantee we never recover from it, because we blame the diagnosis as something that we don't have control over. We don't have power, we don't have agency. And once we start to recognize the true source of our discomfort, which is our nervous system on a deeper gobstopper layer that we're just not aware of, that's not our fault, it got wired in because we went through some fucking hellish thing and didn't have support. Once we can recognize that that is what is generating our discomfort, then and only then can we really change it for good. And so that's why I'm moved, Celeste, by your willingness to be courageous, to view things differently and take personal responsibility without blame. Like, we can blame ourselves. It's not our fault. It's our nervous system responding to overwhelming life experiences in a normal, natural, appropriate way. I really appreciate you saying that. Celeste, thank you for being here. Allison, thank you. Angry Peach, you absolutely can change. Feelings aren't facts. Just because we feel powerless doesn't mean it's true. And that, my friends, is a good place to leave this. It has been a true honor and privilege to connect with you all here today. I will be here next Monday live, 10:30 Mountain Time. Please tell your friends. Please subscribe to the channel. Please help me grow these numbers and get this word out, because it very much feels like the thing I'm here to do. And I really would love your help in making that happen. All right. Yes, go guide yourself on some meditation. It's not meant to be done alone. It can be the source of your greatest hell. So go let music guide you, let environments guide you. And I appreciate you all. We'll see you next week.